and you will see me in the Thing expanded documentary.
U.S. number 31 calling McMurdo. Urgent.
Come in. Over.
Did you notice anything strange about the dog? Anything at all?
Strange? No.
What the hell happened here? Looks like something buried under the ice.
What we're talking about here is an organism that imitates other life forms.
Somebody in this camp ain't what he appears to be. Bennings was right there, Mac. I swear to God it had a hold of him.
It could have imitated 1 million life forms on 1 million planets.
There was one of those things out there trying to imitate him, Gary. We gotta burn the rest of them. Nobody trusts anybody now.
So how do we know who's human?
There's some kind of test, Doc.
We're gonna draw a little bit of everybody's blood.
You ain't tying me up.
Then I'll have to kill you, child.
You gotta be kidding.
We gotta bring this whole place right down into the ice. We're not getting out of here alive. But neither's that thing.
I'm most proud of this movie. I wouldn't change a frame of it.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Midnight's Edge in the Morning. I'm Tom Connors. We have with us the boss man here. How you doing?
I'm doing excellent. Good morning, everyone. Glad to be here.
Excellent. We also have with us Paul, Canadian Chato. How you doing?
With dramatic lighting. You notice what I've done here?
Yes, it's quite the painting, I think, brings it all together in the background.
Yes, that's
I believe the term is illuminating.
Thank you. And I'm feeling very illuminated. Oh, I went to the Life Labs today and they poked me and removed blood. So
Will you be okay, or do you need a bottle of wine?
to replace my blood. I'm okay. I'm okay. Two different doctors demanded blood from me, so but I'm fine.
Yeah.
And
they could work together, but yeah.
They didn't ask for a urine sample, but I gave it to them anyway because
very thoughtful.
I'm a thoughtful guy. You sure you don't want a urine sample? I'm happy to give it. Like I got lots to give.
Oh Lord.
It's Friday. What do you expect?
Good morning, everybody. Oh, it's fine. It's fine. I'm used to it by now. I'm surprised it wasn't a sperm sample joke instead.
That's harder to give at my age.
Well, the joke would be that you tried to give a sperm sample, but all it was dust.
Yeah, I have to take Viagra just to masturbate.
There you go.
And this is how you know it's Friday. So, yeah.
Like, what else do you expect from me, guys?
Oh, nothing less. Nothing
less. Good.
But good morning, everybody. We'll see if anybody else bops in here as the morning goes on. But yes, it's Labor Day weekend in the United States, so everybody's celebrating. I think Canada has it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you know that we will be hard at work here at Midnight's Edge in that true labor spirit.
Yes.
Yeah, it's bad enough this last week didn't almost kill me. You're gonna kill me with next week, yeah.
Well, hey, that's what Labor Day is for, especially Labor Weekend. I mean, I think it's really nasty. I mean, people labor all week, and then they have to labor in the weekend as well. But hey, it's just once a year, so yeah.
All right. Well, with that, let's see what the audience is talking about. Good morning, kids. We got a few super chats here. We've got some regulars showing up. I see 6 swinging a wrench, so watch out. We got Mephisto here in the chat. We got Jill Powers and Will Bloom. Welcome, everybody. Vorpal Bunny's Revenge. War Monkey's here as well with a wrench, and Mecha J has one too. Welcome, guys. We got Dr. Long Dongler, Skiboo, and so many more. Mizzy Buddy is here. Packing Protons is here, and he sends in a super chat right off the bat and says with $5, Ziegler has a movie about the year 2000 coming up. Can we use this as a barometer on how Snow White will do if it comes out first? Interesting question. Now, have you seen the trailer for this, Paul?
I know nothing about. Is it sort of the is it like Raquel Welch back in the year,
No.
We should be so lucky.
We should be so lucky. So obviously Andre knows what it is. So yes. Basically it's kind of like a weird, if like it's from Jonah Hill. So if it's like if they took Superbad and mixed it with End of the World, that End of the World movie they made.
Yes.
Seth Rogen and all those guys.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is, set during Y2K.
Yeah.
And so you have a bunch of kids who weren't even alive in the year 2000 playing kids in the year 2000. And I'm of two minds of it, because I'm happy to see that we're getting a traditional style comedy. I'm just not so sure that this is going to land with anybody, because I think the kids that it's trying to appeal to won't understand what Y2K was all about because they weren't there.
Yep.
And people like me who were actually that age that these characters are playing at that time, I'm going to be like going, well, that's not what we wore. That's not what we listened to. That's not how we talked. So through the whole movie, I'm going to be just doing that, which maybe I won't, because Jonah Hill did do a good job with Superbad, even though it takes place in like obviously some nondescript year in the 90s. It felt like the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe, just maybe, Jonah could pull that off. But I'm of two minds on it. Like, I'm kind of like, yeah, it looks funny and interesting, but at the same time, it's like, could they have just come up with like maybe an alien invasion or something else instead of Y2K to build upon? Because I don't know if the younger kids are going to get the joke. But like, basically, you ever seen Maximum Overdrive as well? The Stephen King movie, Maximum Overdrive, where all the machines and stuff come to life. That happens in the movie too. Like, so basically anything like electronic on Y2K goes nuts. That's the gimmick and joke.
That's the premise of the film. That
it's basically a comedy version of Maximum Overdrive. Yeah,
the movie is
actually happened in this film as opposed to just fizzling out.
Correct.
Exactly.
This movie is an alternate year 2000. The movie is called Y2K, and it's from the studio A24, and it basically presents Y2K, where what happened wasn't that some computer glitched and nothing other than that, but that machines actually came to life and pulled Five Nights at Freddy's on everyone. That's kind of like the gist of the movie. And I'm sure the movie is going to be okay, but no, I do not think that it can be used as a barometer on how Snow White will do in any way, shape, or form. But I'm sure that someone in Hollywood is going to do that, because this is something that they typically do in Hollywood. When they try to measure how much each and every star is worth, then they look at how a movie that they are in is performing and use that to assess that star's future value and stuff. And there is merit to that when we're talking about the people selling the movie. Not so sure that Rachel Zegler is first and foremost on that list. Sorry, Paul, you were saying.
No, I was saying it. I think that's a good point. Now, it depends on how much she's participating in it. You saw the trailer. How much does she take up on the trailer? Is she actually being promoted, or did they shove her into the background?
Tom?
She's basically like the second lead.
Okay.
I guess you would say, like, she's like if you remember in Superbad, there's the two friends, and then there's like Brie Larson or whoever it was that the chick was, and the other, who was the chick in that one? That wasn't Brie Larson, it was somebody else. But anyway, I was thinking of 21 Jump Street. But like, so basically, like, you have the pair, and then you have the pair. So there's like a pair of each, and she's one of the chicks.
Okay.
And I'm with Andre on this one. I don't think the movie's being sold. Like, she's not the lead actress. She's not the main selling point of the film. The concept is the sale, and that's where I think the concept itself is going to be hard to sell to people. But Andre's right. I don't think this really reflects the box office is going to reflect on Ziegler. She's like an exception to this film, as opposed to Snow White, where she's like the centerpiece.
Right.
Yeah.
So she just has to look kind of pretty and stand around and not kill the jokes.
Or be funny.
Yeah.
It's funny because Y2K was smack dab in our wheelhouse when we were running an IT company, and we made
for sure.
We made a ton of money over at Y2K, primarily our business video division. That because there was a requirement for all these public companies to explain to the board what they were doing for Y2K. That was kind of a quasi-legal requirement. And we just cranked out corporate video after another. I mean, it was just insane. And then it just fizzled out at the very end because it was a complete, pretty much a complete scam that was initiated by a guy a Canadian guy in London, Ontario. He's the one who created the Y2K scare. That in itself, I think, would be a good movie. But then that would be more like, what's the movie where they were doing they discovered the trading people were combined.
Oh, you're talking. Yes, I know. Like the 2008 financial crash movie.
Yeah, the financial crash movie.
Yeah, the big trade or something like that.
I think Jonah Hill was in that.
The Big Short.
The Big Short.
Yes, that's the one. Thank you.
So they could really do a funny, semi-realistic Y2K Big Short because it was just a giant scam that corporations dove into. Curiously enough, I would say it's very similar in the short run to how corporations have adopted all this DEI nonsense. It became a religion. Y2K became a religion amongst corporations as they were trying to prove to everybody how holistic they were in dealing with it. I never thought of that. That's an interesting.
That's what I didn't like because it set up the infrastructure for Checkpoint Charlie. If you catch my drift, it set up the infrastructure for all of the horrors that would come later on. But Paul, since you were there and since you earned good money on that whole thing, can you just enlighten the audience real quick? What was the Y2 scare about, other than machines coming to life, Stephen King style, as the movie Y2K promises? What was the real deal?
So the whole thing came about because of programming. I wouldn't call it an error, but back in the day when, a long time ago, when computers had very much less memory than what we have even in our like Apple Watches, to conserve memory, they took the date, and I'm trying to remember, they took the last two digits off the date. So it would be 99 would be 1999. You know what I mean? So
so they took up they didn't take off the last two. They took up the first two in the year. So you just had the decade, but you didn't have the century or the millennia,
right?
Which was kind of like the issue.
And they were able to save, those two characters by removing them from programming. They were able to save valuable space, like I said, which was much more valuable in the time. So the scare was that all these computers that were not going to be able to, were not capable of being able to flip over to the year 2000.
Yeah,
because they didn't have the first two digits. So they, programmers were madly reprogramming systems, mostly in COBOL, which again, by that time, there was only 3 old guys in the world who could remember how to program in COBOL. COBOL programmers made a huge killing back in 1999. So trying to find a way to add those first two, the ability to add the first two digits to be able to accommodate 2000. So that's sort of what it was about. And they predicted elevators would be crashing, planes would fall from the sky. Just an unbelievable amount of carnage was going to take place. Power stations were going to shut down because
Well, basically modern day
dogs and
doomsday
cats
prophets.
living together, mass hysteria.
Yes. Yeah. That's correct. So yeah, just 2 digits. 2 digits killed us. But it never happened. Pretty much nothing.
I mean, everybody, I remember it pretty vividly. Like, yeah, I mean, on the other side of things, as far as like the way that the media was presenting it, I mean, even then, that was kind of like my first experience as a young gentleman going like, okay, this is, they're full of shit.
Yes.
Right? Like going, okay, this is made up, nonsensical bullshit, and somebody's getting rich.
The media always goes for the big story, and that hasn't changed. And I think Andre is onto something. I think you could probably trace not just the hysteria around all this DEI stuff, but also maybe that was the beginning of, along with CNN, with the 24-hour news cycle, picking on an item and working it to death. So yes, Y2K was worked to death and caused hysteria amongst the general public.
Well, things have been worked to death before and caused hysteria. I mean, it's kind of like funny if you look at like old time sketch shows and stuff like that. Like, for instance, I recently rewatched Mad TV from the 90s, and they were talking about Windstorm 97, which I take it must mean that it was really windy that year, and the media were covering the hell out of it. I can only imagine it must have been something like that.
Oh, yeah. Every time we had an El Nino, there was a heat wave we've never had before. The world was coming to an end. It was.
Remember that clip of like that guy? I think this was CNN too, when it was like this was much more recent. It's like in the last 15 years or so, where there's like this guy in CNN who was like there standing in the wind. He can barely stand up straight. He's really struggling against the gusts, and you have like 2 people who just come in the background to stare at him and keep on walking quietly.
Yeah,
it's really not that windy at all.
I remember that one.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
But I think with the Y2K, what made it different was that for the most part, it was an abstract concept. It dealt with computing, which made it even more abstract to the general public.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
It was hysteria based on complete ignorance, much along.
It kind of reminded me of the OJ case, because like that's kind of how,
but the OJ case was still about a human being. I'm talking.
It was, but my point is that they were able to manipulate people enough between the jury and the press with the DNA bullshit that Cochran knew that was where to key in, because he knew he could create a bit of doubt there. And at that point, we didn't understand DNA. All we knew about DNA is that it could make dinosaurs.
Yes, of course.
In 1996, that's all we knew. We had just heard this word DNA, and all of a sudden we get Jurassic Park. And that's our first time we really, as a collective world, kind of understood what DNA was. Because before that, it's like, cops would use it in cases and stuff like that, but we wouldn't quite understand it unless you were somebody like you, who were nerdy enough to like be into that kind of stuff. But like at that point, I'm just like, okay. So that's kind of what it reminded me of, is like, if you get enough naive people, that they'll believe it. And we kind of have the same thing going on with politics now. Shit, we've seen the same thing not too long ago with that flat earth movement. And the people that really started that whole thing said flat out, yeah, it was a joke. We couldn't believe that people bought into it, so we just kept it going. Right. And it's like the same thing with a lot of these internet things. It's like, you'd be surprised how naive a large group of people could be.
Absolutely. I think the bigger thing here, though, isn't just the media thing surrounding Y2K, although that too is one for the history books. But as Paul said, and we both alluded to earlier, to me, that was the big power grab behind the scenes by who would become the elite in the world of IT. So you obviously have Microsoft. Google wasn't around yet, but whoever it was behind the scenes there, they did a power grab. They set up infrastructure, which means that that because of that, you have like you have an infrastructure where that everyone kind of like has to comply. I mean, just like look at, for instance, SEO, as we spoke about, search engine optimization, which is like the hot topic in marketing. And there's 3 levels to that. There's only one that you can see. The really nefarious one is the behind the scenes one that you don't even see at all.
Right.
That is just fundamental in the construction of the site, where if your website isn't adapted to the blind and the deaf, you're basically screwed, because your site is never going to rank, because that's part of the SEO behind the scenes, that all of the crawlers that make up all of the search engines look for and value, like, this thing isn't accessible, this thing isn't sufficiently woke, so down the ranking it goes. That whole infrastructure started right there in Y2K.
I think that would make a much more interesting movie. A nice.
It will also make for a much more scary movie than the Y2K one we are getting. But yeah.
Oh, by the way, we talked about Robbie Starbuck going after Ford, and they capitulated with regards to their DEI BS, at least initially, and they're no longer going to be filling out the HRC. The Human Rights Collective, I think they're called, form, and the HRC is now going after Ford.
Campaign, not collective. Campaign.
HRC, Human Rights Campaign.
Yeah.
Which is a scam.
Good activist title, though.
Right. It is, and so now they are, because I think they've had several losses recently because of Robbie Starbuck. They're now going after him. And they are also going after Ford for no longer being a right-thinking company. So this is all.
They're guilty of wrongthink.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
which we are proud to be the Wrongthink channel here.
Absolutely, take great pride in my wrongthink. Yeah. I believe that we have covered this super chat. So quite
I'm going to watch the trailer at some point. I'm interested. Yeah. I was there. I can say that.
Robert Montoya sends in 499, says, anyone checked Disney Parks Twitter yet? Multiple reports of downed rides and subpar park maintenance. Is Disney broke? Hashtag Enron vibes. No, I have not heard about this yet. And I have not.
If we had Pro or Jonas Campbell here right now, like they are park guys. I mean, I have been to Euro Disney and I've been to Disney World. Tom, I don't know that you have ever been to a Disney resort. Nope. And we don't really cover Disney news. In terms of this, though, I don't think that Disney is broke. Well, they're not broke financially, but they are broke creatively, and they do not have the Imagineers that they used to have, and they do not have the corporate culture for valuing their parks. What they have instead, and this is my understanding, is that they have the Story Matters groups, which is all about identity matters. Screw story and screw experiences. We need to make this safe for ourselves and our imaginary audience, and everything else needs to go to hell for that. And when you have people like that in charge, then you no longer worry about the best for the parks. So I think it's simply a matter of it's not being prioritized, because they just take for granted people are going to come here no matter what. So we don't need to make sure that we are still the best in class. I think that's kind of what we're seeing. You are seeing the hubris of assuming people will come no matter what. We have other things to spend money on. It's not worth it to fix these old things that are falling apart. And we're probably going to remove them anyway because they're not safe anymore, and do something really bland and boring instead. Because that's what our new generation of Imagineers, who never ever would have been hired just 15 years ago, are telling us. I think it's more a matter of that, not so much that they're broke, but they're woke.
Well,
and the end result would be the same. Just looking in, it's my speculation. What say you?
Then their financial posts, didn't they post like $24 billion in gross revenue?
But of course, they also have quite a bit of expenses. So, like, just looking at revenue is misleading because that's just the total of money coming in. But how
I
much
do a
goes
lot
out?
with 24 billion.
I could also do a lot with 24 billion. But
I could do 24 billion things.
yeah. But yeah, no, it's so it's not that they don't have the money. It's a matter of priorities, and they do not prioritize them in a way that maintains the parks the way that they were, because I don't think that the corporate interest for that is there.
Well, and the
Just
other part of it. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Andre.
just is a company in stagnation and decline right now, and the only way to break that cycle is to completely change the culture by changing the people and bringing in people that first want to restore the parks to what they used to be, and then take them to the next level to remain competitive with Epic Universe and everything else coming up. They don't have that right now. Instead, they have people that want to not be unburdened by what has been or whatever that bullshit line was. That seems to be their mantra over there right now. And of course, they're just going to stagnate because of that corporate culture.
Yeah, and I mean the other guys were talking the other day about this stuff, and it sounds like a lot of these newer things they're putting together, like you brought up the Imagineers. Like it sounds like a lot of these rides are not set up to where they can fix them or access them without basically shutting the whole damn thing down, which is a problem, I guess. And they used to be able to be designed to where like the you know the mechanic guys or the what do you call it? Jeez, I'm trying to think of the word. Maintenance guys, sorry, that's the word I couldn't think of. The maintenance guys can't get in there from like back access and all that kind of stuff and quickly take care of problems. And Culture was also saying something like instead of these things being set up on the way they used to be structured on a certain kind of loop, they're like motion activated now instead. So that's a whole nother can of worms or something like that. So it just sounds like you're right, Andre. Like a lot of the engineers that they have working there are not quite up to snuff, or not even quite nearly as good as they used to be. And the park, I don't think that I think it's more of an inability to maintain the rides, if that makes sense. It sounds like to me.
Yeah,
because even the new version of the one that took over Splash Mountain, I guess, has spent more time down than it did working its first couple of weeks or something like that. So yeah.
I mean, we even have pictures from a few months ago, or maybe it was last year, of like their rides literally burning down in front of the audience.
Oh, that was that dragon thing, yeah.
Yeah.
But wasn't that the ride?
No, it was.
Yeah, luckily it was like a float. It was a float or something like. Yeah, no, but that became more entertaining than any of the teacup rides. That's for sure.
I would have loved to be. I don't know how anyone can be on those teacups. I get seasick by all that spinning and.
You know, as a kid, Andre, I used to be able to do that shit, no problem. My buddy and I, like, I hadn't been to like a carnival or a fair for years, and this was before my kid was born. And I'm like, you know what? Let's go hang out down at the fair because we were bored one like weekend because our fair, the local fair always came Labor Day weekend actually, which is weird. And you know, so it'd been like 4 or 5 years since I'd been on a ride. I got sick as a dog as an adult going on stupid rides I used to go on as a kid. It's like, how the hell? And then of course I have a kid, and a few years later I'm sitting here. Now I know why my parents would just sit there and watch me on the rides as a kid. Because there's like no way I'm getting on that sumbitch. I'll be puking. I don't know what it is with changes.
Yeah, no, I have that exact same experience, and I can even pinpoint exactly when it happened. When I became my dad, who gets seasick from eating in a restaurant. I wasn't finished. Since we were once in a restaurant in Oslo, and there was like this engine or something like that in the kitchen. There was some kind of like machine pump, something that made like this noise that reminded him of a boat, and that was enough to make him seasick.
You know what?
I was like thinking, yeah, I'm never going to be like that. And then I was working at the Tusenfryd, which is the a Norwegian theme park. So I took like all of those rides and everything as I was growing up, all of the spinning stuff. And then I remember the moment one summer when I was like 18. Like this one ride, I have always been able to take right now, to take before, but now suddenly it took me 15 minutes to recover. I'm becoming my dad. That's exactly what happened.
That's actually a great joke, Andre. I get seasick eating at seafood restaurants.
Yeah,
That's a fantastic.
it is.
I'm gonna steal that. That's
You're welcome.
That is like an
You're
old
welcome to.
Henny Youngman joke or whatever.
I did that. I did that too once as well, like a seafood restaurant with 2 Michelin stars as well. Like, I'm not even gonna get into it.
Or it sounds like a Rodney Dangerfield joke. Like, this place is so bad. The seafood will make you seasick.
That's right.
I'm a shitty comedian, but I can provide good material.
Yeah, that's a good line.
Carry on, Paul.
Really good line. I like that.
Yeah.
It's funnier.
Anyway, moving on.
Moving on.
Protons also said for $10. Also, thanks to Wednesday's show and Andre, I now know the odd UK license plate I saw in New Jersey, of all places, was most likely German. A hyphen over a C and 2 dots over a U. Yeah, that's that would be German. Now, did you tag me in something like that on X? Because I saw like your license plate, and if that was you and you sent some pictures there, there's another dead giveaway with all European nameplates, because again, this is like that Checkpoint Charlie infrastructure. If you look at the very left side of the license plate, there's going to be like a blue field where there's letters, and those indicates the country. And I do believe that in the picture I saw there on X, there was pictured a D. And if there's a D, that's D for Germany. So that's a dead giveaway. Exactly, Deutschland. Whereas if it's from the UK, it would say GB for Great Britain.
Right, Great Britain.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Hungary.
But some of those country codes are counterintuitive, but
Hungarian has got 14 vowels and 30 consonants in its alphabet.
Yeah, they should go have a party with Finland, because their languages are related anyway.
Yeah, they are. They're similar. Yeah, there's the odd word that's similar.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, there's no ja in Finnish. It really isn't.
I know. I'm just.
Yeah.
My mom had a yai. Anytime something was horrible. Yai.
Yeah, exactly. And she wasn't saying yes.
No.
House Atreides sends in 5 Canadian and says, I saw the TDS ad last night. I sent it to a few of my liberal friends. It was too funny to watch their reactions. Complete denial. I'm not familiar with which ad you're specifically talking about.
I know which one he means. This is one that actually came. Yes, this is an ad which came from, I believe, from the Kennedy camp, which basically demonstrates that if you see Trump on TV and you instantly assume that everything Orange Man has ever said or done is bad, then you are suffering from TDS. Now, here's the real problem. That's the gist of it.
The best thing is you don't need to call a doctor. All you need to do is pull your head out of your ass.
Yeah, indeed. So there's a few various derangement syndromes out there. But of course, that doesn't apply to any of you guys. So please do like Dr. Longdong would, who sent us a sticker. Smash that like.
There's some wonderful crazy shit going on already south of the border. I was. There's.
You mean in America, which is south of your border? Yeah.
So your south of the border is different from mine, Andre. But
mine south of the border is the ocean. Well, of course
Tom, yours would be
I'm on an island right now, but even in Norway, my south of the border is south of that's Denmark. So
my understanding is that there's a couple of states in the U.S. with Democratic leadership who are preventing JFK or JRK
with JFK
Kennedy
and JRK yes,
from being removed from the ballot.
Correct.
Because I guess they want to sow confusion into the crowd. But conversely, they're trying to get Cornel West off the ballot because they're afraid that he might bleed off some hardcore lefty Democratic votes. So they're trying to suck and blow at the same time. It's
correct. This is the
politics
double
in your country,
standard.
Tom,
They
are
want to
tough.
keep the guy that can bleed votes from the other side, but get rid of the one who can bleed votes from theirs.
Is
So
that true?
double
Tom,
standard.
do you know anything about it? We've got our one American trying to confirm this. Where do you go?
I got a cat in my face right now.
Yeah, and our one American is also busy because it's a Labor weekend, and I've kept him occupied.
What was your question as far
celebration of
as like the him being kept on the ballot?
Well,
yeah, they like
I think
they
it's
like to do that.
Wisconsin or Michigan or something where they've deemed that Kennedy has to stay on the ballot ostensibly to bleed off Trump supporters, and they're demanding that Cornel West leave just in case he bleeds Democratic supporters.
Yeah, it's basically anytime anything that will help them, they will be all for it. Anytime it will hurt them, they're not. Right? Like, because honestly, we should all be saying, well, frankly, Kamala isn't the one who got nominated initially. It was Biden. Shouldn't he be on the ticket?
He should still be on the. You're right.
Yes, he should be. They completely bypassed democracy.
It's true.
And they're the ones who are all so worried about democracy dying.
Of course.
Well, it's like,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
killed it, motherfuckers.
Yeah, of course. But
You
that's
just
the
told
beginning.
your entire party who the presidential nominee is going to be without them having any say in it whatsoever. And you got the opposite problem on the right. You got half the people on the right that are in office freaking out because they don't want Trump in office because he's somebody who don't play ball. And they were trying everything they could to keep him off the ticket. And when they realized that there was no way that was going to happen, yeah, well, now you know. Yeah, but no, they want to sow confusion as much as possible. And what's hilarious about it is it's gotten to the point where, you know, it used to be like, oh, well, the right's all about the gerrymandering and all this kind of stuff. It's like the last 10, 15 years, the shit I've seen out of the left, it's like they blatantly do it right out in the open. And what's even more hilarious is how they're trying to run with the whole Trump is a felon, Trump is a felon, Trump is a felon thing. It's like, y'all fucking do that shit in your sleep.
Well, that's a discussion that you don't want to go down. That's a road you don't want to go down.
But you and I both, and everybody knows that a politician is like the worst of the worst as far as lying to you and fucking people over. And that's what they don't like, is because he's an honest crook instead of being a dishonest crook like they are.
I'm not weighing into that.
No,
but I mean,
yeah, that's where I look at it right
I
now.
was just curious about whether that was true or not, because I think
Oh yeah.
from a comedic perspective, that's pretty funny.
They do it flat out without even like. It's hilarious. And
You can do that flat out when the media will back you and support you in doing it. Not ask any questions. But let us.
Let's pound that like button.
Main
Like
topics at hand here, which Matthew W brings us into. Has been a member for 34 months, and he says, another week, another show I could care less about. At least it's a 3-day weekend here in the US. Yes,
Hey, I hope you're not talking about our show here, man.
I think probably he may be talking about shows like The Rings of Power, which we have featured in the thumbnail. I think maybe that is what Matthew W is caring about. Rings of Power, Amazon dropped not 1, not 2, but 3 episodes in one go. And my first thought is, how can they do this to us? I mean, why do we have to suffer through 3 episodes in such short amount of time? Who can do that? I mean, we need recovery time in between after this. I mean, this isn't a good place where you can't wait for the next episode. No, this is the Rings of Power, where every episode is torture. But, Paul, you took one for the team, and you saw at the very least 1 episode. I couldn't possibly ask you to do any more, because I do not want to lose you to a hemorrhage or something like that. But how was this 1 episode of The Rings of Power that you had time to see so far? Has there been any hints of the Sauron and Galadriel sex scene that I practically guaranteed was going to come at the end of the last season?
Well, in episode 1, no hints of the sex scene. They kind of explained how Sauron got onto that onto the raft. and his creation, his initial destruction, and then his recreation. I mean, spoiler alert. I won't get into it too deeply. Overall, way more happens in this episode than in any of the episodes in the first season. Okay. Lots of stuff happens. Some of the things are actually vaguely interesting. I'm not familiar with all the appendices and everything else that they're borrowing from. Pretty much nothing is recognizable from the Lord of the Rings. They would probably be better off. This has nothing to do with Lord of the Rings. Would have probably been a better, hint as to what the show was about. Galadriel is duller than in the first episode, because now in this particular first episode, she's just being bitchy. She's not riding a horse. Well, she was riding a horse, but she's not wielding a sword and stabbing things and taking down a snow troll and showing what a girl boss she is. She's absolutely not a girl boss in at least this episode. The king of the elves is a useless twat. And I mentioned it in the before we got on air. What was it that was bugging me about this? Because there's clearly a lot more going on. You've got fake Gandalf with the two fake hobbituses, which was silly, inconsequential, but it's part of their road journey. The main thing is, and I was trying to nail down the difference between Rings of Power and Peter Jackson's Tolkien and the original Lord of the Rings, is that Tolkien managed to create a mythos around the origins of England, similar to Beowulf. That's a very difficult thing to do. And Peter Jackson managed to capture the mythos part of it. I don't think too many people have talked about that aspect of Lord of the Rings. Again, the Beowulf, Nordic, whatever the equivalent was, the movie really did a great job of capturing that. Rings of Power is not about the myth. It's just kind of a fake, Thorn, whatever that throne show was.
Game of Thrones?
Show. Game of Thrones. It feels like it's trying to be more Game of Thrones than it is trying to be Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
that's its biggest problem, is that there's no mythos in it. It's just endless stupid shit happening that you don't really care about. Oh, the three rings, and oh, you better give them to me. Oh, you jumped off the precipice to prevent me from having the three rings, but it's got Sauron's taint on it. Oh, you don't touch it, but Sauron really didn't do much with it. Oh, but Sauron helped you forge it. But it's like, okay. Yeah.
No, that's a very good point, actually, because the key difference, just to hone in on what you said there, Game of Thrones is not meant to be our past. Game of Thrones takes place in a different world, in a different universe. In a sense, it's like Star Wars. We don't know if it takes place in the past or the future relative to us, but we do know it takes place in a different solar system out there in the universe. So it may as well have been Star Wars in a sense. They are just at the same kind of level where we are in the Middle Age. That's where they are. We have a few other movies like that, like The Warrior and the Princess, Krull. These are the same kind of things, right? These are basically stories that take place on alien worlds. These are worlds that Star Trek may as well have visited, because they feature a humanity which is in its Middle Ages, basically. That's what Game of Thrones was, and that's the feel of the Rings of Power as well. And of course, that's where they stepped wrong, because the Rings of Power, Lord of the Rings rather, isn't meant to be a different tale set in a different world with human-like characters in a medieval setting. No, that is meant to be the mythical past of the British Isles.
Yeah.
Just as Beowulf is, which is a great comparison. Like Beowulf is a poem which has been placed to around Sweden, actually, more specifically. But basically, it's an Old Norse saga, and Tolkien was tremendously inspired by the Old Norse sagas, which you can even tell from the names that he uses in Lord of the Rings. Like, many of the place names are the names of actual places in Scandinavia. Like, for instance, Vestfold, a place that's a name that is in Lord of the Rings. It's in Norway. There's an airport there. And the true story. But anyway, so basically
the
he
UK
has
is very much tied up with Nordic myth.
exactly. It's the joint Norse heritage, because Old English and Norse were quite similar. For instance, when I watch Beowulf, since you mentioned that, like the animated Beowulf by Neil Gaiman, in those sequences where they speak Old English, I understand what they're saying as a Norwegian, because it's similar enough to Old Norse, which is similar enough to modern day Norwegian, that I actually understand what they're saying better in the Old English parts than in the regular English parts, in a sense. Yeah, if you catch my drift.
Yeah, and Lord of the Rings was very much about the different kingdoms and their various stages of
exactly
health, and the leadership, whether and for the most part, the leaders were unbelievably stoic and important individuals. And so far in Rings of Power, you get none of that. You get the elves, and they're kind of neutered.
And that would be, of course, because the Rings of Power, unlike what Tolkien did, who wrote in a mythical sense, this is written, Rings of Power, that is, for modern audiences. It's written by modern audiences who doesn't even know what mythical storytelling is, probably. And they've written it for their imaginary modern audience, which means that the characters act like modern characters, they talk like modern characters, and the world just doesn't feel lived in any way, shape, or form. You have like the idea of a modern set of writers of how they think that the past would have been, or how you would live out in the woods and the forest and stuff, but it doesn't feel authentic in a way that the writings of Tolkien and thereby the Peter Jackson movies did, because that feels the same way as if you took, for instance, Beowulf or any other Icelandic saga or something like that, and you filmed it with all of the supernatural creatures. That's kind of like what The Lord of the Rings feels like. It has that feel, the timeless, mythological, legendary feel, which is completely absent from the Rings of Power. At least it was in season 1. I can only assume it's going to be exactly the same in season 2. I have not yet had time to see it. Yeah. It's something that I will have to suffer through. But when those bastards drop 3 episodes at the same time, I mean, I have other stuff to do. And Terminator was dropped on exactly the same day. There's only so many hours in the day we have here. We have to try to create some content for you guys as well. I mean, it's all coming out of the same hourly schedule. I don't get any more days in a day just because those bastards decide to drop 3 episodes in one go.
And I refuse to watch it because I didn't even get through about 10 minutes of the first episode of the first season. So,
but yeah, you don't have time because you have videos.
Actually, I am. I'm very much a Lord of the Rings fan, but I'm not a fan of this shit.
Yeah.
No, as soon as I saw what's his face, the writing gay poetry in the tree, I'm like, fuck this shit, I'm out.
I'm not entirely certain that humanizing Sauron was the right thing to do. I mean, what it does do, it makes him less mythical. I know there was no, they talked about the Eye of Sauron in the Tolkien work without really explaining what he might look like. And one of the genius ideas of Peter Jackson and his team was to create the Eye of Sauron, right? That's a Peter Jackson creation. that the giant tower with the pulsating eye at the top, and that made it outerworldly. It made it a kind of evil that nobody could really comprehend. And now making him corporeal and mysterious, and as he's walking amongst people, and he could just flick his finger and kill everybody around him. Why isn't he doing it? And he's liking this person. And Sauron actually liked someone, did he? I mean, it's a bizarre
Of
show.
course, it's what a lost love is what turned him bad. Of course,
a bad date. That's
bad
right.
date,
So
yeah.
in of itself, the idea that you've got this unbelievable, powerful individual that has reconstructed himself, and is now walking amongst humans and is hiding his true evil, that's not a bad idea for a story. And it could even be a Lord of the Rings story, but they haven't made it work. They haven't made it fit. The costumes are better. It looks better. I'm going to hold judgment until episode 2. I've heard nothing but unfortunate things about the show so far, but it's not that particularly interesting.
Well, remember, they did a huge step to course correct from the first to the second season.
They got all female directors now.
Exactly. There were too many men directing in season 1. So you had like this negative, toxic male energy throughout. And they've gotten rid of that now. So it should be much, much better and safer to watch now. So, looking forward to that. And meanwhile, any other thoughts on Rings of Power so far before I break down Terminator?
No, it looks like they've neutered Galadriel. And it'll be interesting to see. It's almost like it's Sauron saga. We'll see what they do with the rest of it.
Oh, that rasky, toxic male.
He's terrible.
The series, yeah.
Stepping
all over. Mansplaining Galadriel and everything.
Galadriel's a horrible character in this series.
No, I went to watch Lord of the Rings, or Panda Rings of Power, as people are calling it. And basically, I watched Delta Force instead. So there you go.
Yeah, that sounds like a significantly better choice.
Chuck Norris just sounded more interesting. Sorry. But let's get into some more of these super chats and member chats. We got Matthew W., who says, another week, another show I could care less about.
Yeah,
at least it's a 3-day weekend here in the US.
Yeah, this is the one we actually started with.
Okay.
Since that, I also saw Terminator. So let's.
I was going to try to get to a few of those before you did, but go ahead.
Okay, go through a few or more of those.
Yeah, because Kulix81 sent this in earlier on the Green Machine and said, Andre, please don't watch Hertzfeld's recent animation Wisdom Teeth Restored. I think the humor is Norwegian, even if the language appears to be Swedish Chef. Or he tells you to please watch it.
Yeah, he says watch Don Hertzfeld.
Yeah,
he doesn't say don't watch. He says Don Hertzfeld's recent animation.
I'm half awake.
Restored. Yeah, I'll check that one out. If appears to be Swedish, well, here's the thing with Norwegian and Swedish humor. It's exactly the same, even though we tend to be at the butt of each other's jokes. Thanks for the tip. I shall check out Wisdom Teeth Restored. No idea what it is, but I will check it out.
Is Norwegian humor an oxymoron?
Not for Norwegians, but maybe for Americans. But yeah.
And then Wesley, 1924, just sent over 5 on the Rumble side and says, wait, that guy is Sauron? I thought people were saying Sauron this whole time. Oh.
I as well have been. And Accident Salad says for 20.
I didn't realize I was muted. Sorry.
Yeah. Chato's dust spunk, so his kids are dust born. Yeah. I have a video coming about that actually. You know who I spoke with or who I have been in touch with the last couple of days? The Norwegian Film Institute. They would be the ones that provided funding for Dustborn. And I asked them what they had to say for themselves.
And I bet they said, hurty-gurdy, work-a-burr.
That's sweet.
To American eyes, yeah, it would sound pretty much like that. So yeah, I think I'll break down exactly what they said in an upcoming video here, where I'll bring forth what they said, word for word, so there's no chance of misrepresentation.
Hurty-gurdy, BLM, and then the pronouns.
I'm sure the Norwegians are going to be happy that their tax dollars disappeared in Dustborn.
The Norwegians, I assure you, have far bigger grievances with what our tax dollar or tax krona is being spent on other than Dustborn. But that's like the least of concerns, but it is an annoyance. That's for
but peaceful.
You never know in politics what blows up as a big thing.
Well, from their point of view, it isn't that big, though.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's certainly not where downloads or anything are concerned. I mean, it has players in what, the hundreds?
Yes. It's not doing particularly well.
No surprise there, as is the case with most Norwegian-funded games. So, yeah, I'll have plenty more to say about that. Have you tried Dustborn by any chance, Paul?
No. It's not my style of game. I'm not an Overwatch player.
I don't think it's anyone's style of game. Okay, so you have to be an Overwatch player.
Well, it's basically that style.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Seller sending in another super chat here that'll get you on your topic here, Andre. He first sends in one for 20 Norwegian kroner and says Terminator 0 sucks. T800s can be pushed now. And then he sends in another 20 and says new AI stuff added in T0 is generic anime slop. So you watched the new Terminator anime. What did you think?
Only the first episode. Now there's because the entire first season has been released, and to be clear, I have only seen the first episode, which basically just sets up the entire rest of the show. So I cannot review the show as a whole. What I can say is that it's an intriguing setup. Doesn't appear to be anything too woke about it, other than that the hero from the Resistance, who's being sent to protect the mail in Japan in 1997, is a woman, of course. But I don't know exactly how that is going to play out, so I will defer judgment on that for now. Basically, I've only seen the setup for it. What I will say is that I'm not a big fan of anime as a general thing, and this is very, very obvious anime, like set in Japan, Japanese made, or even the Terminator's HUD is in Japanese. So to me, that's a bit distracting, because I'm not a huge fan of that particular style of anime, although I will say that one episode in, it's well executed. The story shows promise, but let's see where it goes. And apparently it doesn't go anywhere good, as we just saw here. But too early to say on that for where I'm concerned. So I was intrigued. It certainly was off to a far better start than any of the other Terminator movies we have gotten the past 20 years. Because where I'm concerned, they have all fallen apart in the first 5-10 minutes, which would be the running time equivalent of this series, whereas it hasn't fallen apart yet, far from it. So I think that this can be intriguing, and it looks set to be the single best Terminator installment since the Sarah Connor Chronicles. I mean, it's already better than any of the movies since part 2.
I was going to say that's not a high bar. Well, I went to watch Terminator. I went to watch Terminator and I watched The Three Stooges instead. So it sounds like I made the right choice.
Yeah. So I will be continued watching it. It's up to a fairly decent start, but let's see how it plays out. And not a lot of competition where other Terminator iterations are concerned beyond the first two, obviously. So I defer judgment until I've seen more episodes. Nice and bloody, though. I will give it that.
Oh, well, I mean, it's anime, it's Terminator. That means it's up my alley.
Even some minor nudity that we wouldn't have gotten an American version of it. So yeah,
I will. I'll have to take a look at it.
I think you'll probably enjoy it far more than you would than you will Rings of Power.
Yeah, probably.
I'll put it this way. I had the option between. I was like, okay, I have the time to check out one episode of something. Do I check Rings of Power or do I check Terminator Zero? And I gambled. Paul is probably seeing Rings of Power, so I'm going to go with the lesser of the two evils and go with Terminator.
Well, you gambled well. I did, as I mentioned, I did add Murders in the Building Season 4, Episode 1.
How was that?
Good. Actually, the last series 2 and series 3 started slowly and then picked up really good steam towards the end. Season 4 has started off with a bang, like really funny first episode. So a much better start than certainly the beginning of season 3. So good mystery. What's nice about it is that they've really turned it into Jessica Fletcher Murder, She Wrote. There's a killing, and now they're on to something. We're not waiting for the killing to happen.
All right,
We're
cool.
not waiting for the murder to happen.
That's just the kind of series that I'll wait until it's completely done before checking out, like I did with The Good Place.
It's good, and Martin Short, in at least the first episode, has now stopped doing his Ed Grimley impression, which he was doing in seasons 1 and 2, which I don't think he needed. He didn't need it all.
Maybe he can do like an Ed Grimley comeback or something at some point. Old man Grimley.
Old man, I might say, very talented guy. You can see the rapport between Gomez, Martin, and Short is just fantastic, which is really all we ever talk about, right? It seems to be one of the things that we're missing in the show is the rapport between the main characters of any of these projects. Nobody wanted to see, and I don't want to bring her up again, but I mean, Amanda Stenberg was not somebody that you were particularly interested in watching week after week, right? Whereas Murders in the Building is just really good, old style, corny stuff with some very funny, not just cameos, but the premise is that Hollywood, Paramount of all places, wants to make a TV series or a movie of Murders in the Building. And they get
so yeah, I saw the trailer. This is what I was talking about the other day. Yeah,
they get to meet the people who are portraying them in the movie, and Martin Short is being portrayed by Eugene Levy, which is fucking brilliant. It's just, I mean, it's so comfortable. It's old home week. You know, they know each other. We all know that Eugene Levy is an absolutely brilliant comedian. Eva Longoria is doing the Selena Gomez character, which is very, very funny. And they even address the fact that Eva Longoria is older, and she is very funny. She's good. And they've got Zach Galifianakis doing the Martin Short character, and they hate each other. So it's just, what's so great about it is that when you like the people who they've brought in to play Short, Gomez, and Martin, and they're going to just turn it into a big hash, and you just love all these comedians getting together. It's a joy. It's just a real joy to watch, and of course Meryl Streep is in it, and she's sucking face with Martin Short. I mean, you know,
I got to have some perks when you're involved with it. So
I just don't want to see them naked.
I'm sure he wouldn't mind.
So, anyways, good first start to the 4th season.
Excellent. Well, thanks for that review. And with that, let's move on.
And I guess I could just say that the Three Stooges are still Three Stooging.
I met them at the CNE. They used to be one of the biggest draws at the Canadian National Exhibition that happens every summer in August, which is happening right now.
Chato revealing his age here. So.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. They were huge. Curly was never with them because he was dead by that time, but they did drag along Shemp. So it's Mo, Larry, and Shemp. And they were huge. I mean, I cannot tell you the volume of people that would come to see the Three Stooges. It was joyous. It was fun.
Certainly. And then we got the last call with Troy Pacelli, who's been here for 17 months. Thank you for that. Le Sumerian sends in 5 and says, Hail. I should almost read this as Arnold. Hail, fight your foes in the field. Don't be burned in your home. And that's from the Volsunga saga.
Wow.
Yeah. Right. And then Troy also sent in a $2 super chat and says, Andre Tom is a treasure. Actually, so are you. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Nice.
And then we got Rick Johnson, my buddy in the house, sends in 5 and says, Happy Friday, Tom, Andre, and Paul. Enjoy your weekend. Well, thank you, Rick. That's very generous of you. Rick already sends me movies all the time. So, yeah, that's very generous of you. ActionCom sends in 2 and says, Software engineers taught this to their students. Sorry. Software engineers taught this to their students. This is when I think we were talking about the Imagineers and how they could, and how to maintain things easier.
Well, I mean, I think they were using way more pneumatic stuff, and although solenoids became a very big, has been a very big part of all the little animatronic things. We are these solenoid robots.
And then ActionCom wants to see you, Paul, doing a reaction video on the Y2K television movie. I would love to see your reaction to the predictions the movie made.
So is that going to be a TV movie or is that going to be in theaters?
No, I think he's referring to something that came out way back when.
Oh,
like, if I'm not mistaken.
Y2K television movie. Okay. I don't know that. So not the new,
not the newer one.
Not the newer one. Okay.
Yeah, I think he's talking about something that came out at the time to probably try and scare the hell out of us.
Oh, I don't know. That's old news. I don't know if I want to do that. I'm already doing lots of old news. Anything that comes out of my mouth is old news.
Well, he paid us $5 to ask you to do it.
Okay. Well,
and also, I will say that your old news is far better than any modern day new news for modern audience.
And to be honest, I think the reason he's asking is because you have such a good grasp on what it was all about.
Exactly. I think so
that's
too.
probably why. Yeah.
That you were far more qualified to address it critically than most others, because not only were you there, plenty of people were there. No points for having been there, but you were there.
I was there,
actually working with it in the trenches, making money on all the suckers.
Yeah,
so that makes your perspective a little bit more valuable.
I just found it. It's the Y2K TV movie 1999. It's Millennium Eve. At the stroke of midnight, the Y2K computer bug kicks in, causing widespread chaos in the US. And it got 1.5 stars. Oh, do I really want to do this?
Don't miss Y2K. Your life might just depend on it.
That's right.
That's what I loved about this. You ever seen the movie Scrooge with Bill Murray? I assume you have.
Yes.
Yeah.
Joe Morton.
Don't miss Scrooge. Your life might just depend on it.
Oh, poor old Joe Morton's in it.
Oh, Lord. Then Accident Seller sends another 15 Raging Cronin and says, Chato, we keep hearing your notifications. Pro tip. You can option click the time and date in the menu bar to mute notifications while on stream. Oh, from your computer.
This is a good idea. You should look into that.
Option click. Actually, it wasn't me. I haven't had a single. Okay, so option. click.
Not today you haven't, but other days you have had
Yeah,
little
it's true.
ding, ding, go off quite a few times. But it's no big deal.
Okay.
I think it's kind of charming. Then we got Eduardo Ciboli, who sends in $2. Hopefully I said that correctly. Says Disney cut budgets for park to the bone standard. Yeah, that's the other problem they're having right now too.
Yeah, of
Besides
course, because like all of those pride parades, I mean, it's not cheap to fund all of
they're not
those
going to
things.
pay for
They have to start
themselves.
somewhere, exactly. Priorities.
Yeah, we got to prioritize trans story time over at the Magic Kingdom. You know, we got Mihon here who sends in 50 Swedish krona, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
And I'll read this in Swedish. Hurty birdie, I love it, hurty turtle. Nudie hurdy birdie hurdy. Beetlejuice. Doogie doogie boo. Eaten. Rooks. There you go. So for those who don't speak Swedish, it said, what happens when you cross a slug and a turtle? A Norseman in a helmet. Got to see a preview of Beetlejuice 2. Oh, interesting. Cousin Bargo, I could only say Keaton rules. Well, interesting. I'm glad to hear this. In fact, the buzz, I think, and this is probably why the movie has had this little bump. I did notice that there was some previews going on, especially internationally. I believe they even had a premiere over in somewhere in Europe. I'm trying to remember which country, just the other day or yesterday. And so they bumped up the opening weekend predictions from 80 million to 100 to 105 million. Andre, did you hear that?
I did hear that. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Well, I thought the movie was going to kill, so
yeah,
it seemed to have the right vibe.
I'm getting a little bit more confident about it than I was initially. The more and more I hear, the more interviews I see of Tim Burton and Michael Keaton, that hot stuff thing I showed you the other day, the scene where we get to the backstory about how Beetlejuice became Beetlejuice the ghost, and the backstory about his wife leaked online. I don't know if you watched that, Andre, or not, but I thought that was pretty funny. I think I asked you that the other day, but
yeah,
I don't know if
you did.
Yeah. So that was actually, that gave me a little bit more confidence. I'm like, okay, they're definitely not pulling back on any of this stuff. I mean, it's seemingly still Beetlejuice. So hopefully Tim Burton got his mojo back. And he even said in an interview recently, like, you know, he said, yeah, I kind of fell off and this kind of gave me my juice back, you know, kind of thing. And even apologized for Dumbo, which he should have.
Yeah. Hope it paid well. Let's just put it that way.
He basically said, that's basically what he said in so many words. It's like, yeah, I basically became a slave to Disney.
So did he direct this Beetlejuice?
Oh yeah, he's a big part of this one. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, he's
good.
directing it and everything. Yep. So yeah, looking forward to this. I'm actually gonna go see it Thursday. We got Kino Reviews sending in 5 and says the elves in this show have as much wisdom as a fortune cookie. Of course, he's talking about the Rings of Power elves.
Oh, the elves are horrific, and the fake hobbits are worse, and fake Gandalf. That's also terrible.
Is there anything that is not terrible? Let's start with
the dark elf, who's the leader of the orcs. I like him. He's pretty cool. I'd rather have him be the bad guy, the antagonist in this, than fake Sauron. He's good. He's really, really good. I like that character.
Yeah. Well, too bad it didn't happen.
Yeah, he would have been my preferred bad guy, because again, he's earthbound and trying to get and then making Sauron earthbound just made him dull.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, they screwed that up in every way that is possible to screw something up. So that kind of sucks, but it is what it is. And then Action.com. No, we got that one already. Marksman of 11.7B says for $1.99. From California, I can say Kamala is also a felon as AG. Yeah,
Attorney General.
There were some things that came out there. I do believe that Tulsi Gabbard exposed that pretty well 4 years ago.
Mhm.
That was brutal.
Yeah.
And Eclipse Warlord says for $2, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Yeah, that's what happened with the Rings of Power, and seemingly also in the Game of Thrones, and seemingly also in the Rings of Power, because that's not our past. Corbin Dallas has been a member for 10 months, and we are glad to have you. And Chris K wonders for $5. Andre, have you heard the new Windrow single that came out the other day? I'll answer that thing first. Yes, I have. It's a fun little track. The track is called "To Be a Dwarf," and it's kind of like a happy parody of the heavy metal genre with what could have been Jack Black, basically, in a sense. But it's nice and catchy. It reminds me of the Highlander song from Feuerschwanz, which you also should check out if you haven't seen it. And
Both of these sound like songs I should hear.
I'll hook you up with them, especially
they're in another
Highlander.
language, then I can't understand.
No, they're in English. They're in English.
Okay, good.
They're both in English, so you can chill and relax.
And Chato, any good comedy news? Yeah.
I haven't. There's a trailer that I saw for Chaos, which looked pretty good. I was impressed with Chaos, but other than that, I haven't seen anything that made me jump for joy. We were talking the other day. I was talking the other day with my wife because we saw a trailer, not a trailer, but a special on Blake Edwards, which was also one of the impetuses for me to do that video on Lost Legacy. And, we talk about John Hughes a lot, or I do. And then I completely forgot that, well, Blake Edwards was the John Hughes of his time, essentially, right? And we're not seeing that kind of an individual that takes hold of a genre and then runs with it right now. And specifically, I would love to see a Blake Edwards or a John Hughes get resurrected in Hollywood. So yeah, we need more than just one comedy. We need lots of comedy. That's what I say.
That reminds me that you should work with us on a Blake Edwards Pink Panther retrospective.
Well, I would love to. He wrote or directed 50 some odd movies. I mean, the man has really had a fantastic career.
Right up until Peter Sellers died, then he lost his mojo.
What did he do after Peter Sellers died?
Well, he did Trail of the Pink Panther, and he did Curse of the Pink Panther.
Oh yeah, he never should have done
the Pink Panther. Yeah, no. That's what I mean. Yeah.
No, yeah.
He lost his mojo then.
No, it's true. And nobody is making, well, that's not necessarily true. I think we're getting some adult films coming in now. People are talking about some more mature fare, which I think is important too.
Yeah.
About what? Not Pink Panther.
No, not Pink Panther. I'm trying to think.
No.
There's a recent movie that's out or coming out.
Yeah, furry, stay away from Pink Panther. That's all I'm saying.
Well, the new Pink Panther, the non-Peter Sellers Pink Panther. Do not watch it.
All the Steve Martin ones, yeah, no. I don't even know how that got a sequel.
And the sequel, in my opinion, is better.
I never watched it because the first one was trash. The only funny joke is the hamburger joke, and he gets so old after the first minute or so.
Oh, that's the worst joke in the movie, must be.
Well, anyway, that's the only one I laughed at, because the rest of it I thought was...
Fun fact, the director of that movie is the same one that directed Deadpool and Wolverine.
Levy.
Huh.
Yeah. Sean
Levy.
Yeah.
Well, you got to start somewhere.
You got to start somewhere.
And he started with A Night at the Museum before he took a detour into Pink Panther territory.
And that's a very good movie. Night at the Museum is a really fun movie.
Well, and the worst ill-conceived part of it was, and I love Steve Martin, but he is not Clouseau.
Nope.
And I think you and I have had this conversation, or this is one of the early conversations we had. It was like, how do you not get Sacha Baron Cohen
Exactly. He's the one that should have been Clouseau.
And if anything, it shouldn't be Clouseau. You just run with
His
the
son.
same idea. Or actually, I'd see his grandson now.
Yeah,
But
grandson. Yeah, make it his
Yeah.
grandson. Yeah, problem solved.
Just keep the legacy going, right? Like, just modernize. That's how you modernize it.
Move it on. Move it on. Simple as that.
He's still
And
Clouseau.
And Tom, any new popcorn buckets? That's the final
Yes,
part
I
of the
did
question.
secure one of the Batman buckets. So,
I'm jealous of all the pop. I will never get any such popcorn buckets.
I don't have it in my hands yet, but my buddy picked one up from AMC the other day for me. So I didn't get the alien one. If I see one in the wild, I will pick it up. But no one got one for me, and I didn't get one. So that's the only one I missed out on so far, really, that I wanted. Besides a couple of the Deadpool, just had too many, right? Like there was just too many. Every place had their own different ones.
Yeah, apart from anyone where I was. But,
yeah. But I mean, like I got 2 of the like half dozen that were released. So yeah. But yeah, I was just more disappointed that the Batman bucket didn't go with an anniversary release of the 89 Batman film like you think it would, considering it's the anniversary. No. They re-released The Batman in theaters with a preview for The Penguin. That's what the popcorn buckets were for. So basically, people were buying the popcorn buckets but not going to see the movie, it sounded like. But anyway.
That is wild.
Yeah.
That is extremely wild.
But they're committed to this thing, and the only reason I think they are, because I was just talking about this the other day with somebody, is I think it's just because it was actually George Mullo. I think that they know it's going to be another 3 years before they get their Batman off the ground. So yeah, they need some sort of Batman. Hyperguyver 2 says Lucas Filth seems to think, will forgive. Or sorry, I am way off today. Lucas Filth seems to think we'll forget about how they treated a real strong woman by bringing Sigourney Weaver into the Mando movie. Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but I guess Sigourney Weaver signed on to the Mando movie.
Yeah, and this is something that WDW Pro covered, so massive kudos to him. And basically what he reported is that not only has Sigourney Weaver signed on, they organized with friendly media to ask her questions like, how come you always play such strong women? And how strong a woman will you be in this thing, right? You're basically just planting the narrative. You are a strong woman. Disney doesn't mind strong woman, even if they shit-can Gina Carano because she was the wrong kind of strong woman. Also emphasizing that Sigourney Weaver is the right kind of strong woman who has her party book in order, as we say in Norway. So, yeah.
We'll never forget that she's an old school feminist too. But anyhow, yeah. I think it's stunt casting, to be honest with you. And they got her hanging around, probably making Avatar movies. So they're like, oh, while you're on the green screen stage.
I do what I kind of hope that they can bring her back for another Alien movie. You know how you move forward with the Alien franchise? Do a follow-up to Resurrection and move it forward, because there you have Ripley's clone. That clone should age right. Could continue the story with her beyond Alien Resurrection. Set up a new chapter.
Oh, and by the way,
Borderlands is out, and I believe that, Tom, you predicted that it would be out, and we.
No, I didn't predict nothing. I actually had a source tell me this.
Well, until it's confirmed, it's a prediction.
Knew it.
Yeah.
Oh!
Well, some people were saying last Tuesday. I'm like, and then I heard no, it's going to be a little later than Tuesday. But yeah, I heard it was going to be within this week or next week. But I heard also that they were going to try and have it out by Labor Day weekend. So yeah. So yeah, thank you for that, Hyperguyver. And then Accident Seller says with 50 Norwegian Krona, Tom, Andre, are you on Mac? No.
Nope.
Because the pings during the stream sound like Mac OS. He is fucking nailing you, Paul.
I'm not saying anything. I haven't
Notifications, so it's from Mac. Well, not today. You haven't. Today, actually,
here's like the thing that you're not actively doing it. It's not your fault. It's just that whenever you get an email, we get the notification. Like there's like
Yeah, but
1,500
I've
people who can
turned
tell
off the
me you just got an
notification.
email.
I've turned off the notification ping.
So no, I do not have a Mac because I like to put stuff into my computer that Macs do not like to have on them. Let's put it that way. So yeah. But thanks for the tip, and moving on from there.
Scott
Hughes.
Hughes said, "Go ahead."
Yeah, carry on.
Oh, he says, as a tangent to Beetlejuice, on any Wednesday season 2 news other than second season being greenlit, I can't find anything. I think they started shooting. That's the only other news I've heard. Otherwise, Six just sent me something here in the background. Wednesday's potential release date is still under wraps. So really nothing new, and it got delayed because of the strike, it looks like, more or less. But it'll likely be out later this year, it looks like. But I don't know for sure on that. Or next year, sorry. Next year it'll be out. So all right. They have filmed 4 episodes, though, so I was correct that they did start shooting. So maybe we'll get it by the end of this year, but doubtful. But they are supposed to go back and start shooting in November. So hopefully that answers your question there. And thank you, Six, for the update. We got STR Red Wolf, who's been here for 23 months. And then Action Com says with $10, the Y2K TV movie had a panel afterwards to advise people everything would be okay. Same playbook was used for the Wrath of Khan director's day after 1983. Oh, yeah, I remember the whole hullabaloo. In fact, we talked to Nicholas Meyer a little bit about that when I interviewed him. So, yeah. Check that out if you haven't already, Action Com. But yeah, you guys remember the day after? I don't even know if you got it over there. Or you do? Okay.
I don't know if I saw it.
It was basically supposed to be about the nuclear war if all the nukes went off. It was a TV movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And it was directed by Nicholas Meyer. STR Redwell says we know about the Pink Panther. The only good one was the cartoons that actually had said Panther in it. Yes, this was the bane of every child. When your parents are like, "We're going to watch the Pink Panther movie." Because the first thing you think of as a kid, oh, they did a movie about the Pink Panther, and then you watch it, and then sure, it even teases you in the beginning with the Pink Panther cartoon. Then all of a sudden, it's this dude running around for an hour and a half. And you're like, what the fuck is this? Where's the Panther? That's my first experience watching the Pink Panther, Andre. I hated it.
Well, not just that, but for those of us who got used to the Peter Sellers one, you'd pick the first one, and it's suddenly Niven, and and Peter Sellers plays a minor role. It's David Niven is the star of it.
Yeah, correct. The first one, it's rough to get used to the later movies first and then go back to the first one. That's a rough experience.
Oh, I'm not even talking about see, like in the US here, we were unless you were alive during the original releases, you were so inundated with the Pink Panther as a cartoon and a character that's what you thought of. Like the actual Pink Panther himself, the animated character. Because he was used in advertising.
Yeah.
He had, the 7-minute shorts that would be on constantly. So to us growing up in the late 70s and 80s, that was kind of our first impressions of it. So whenever the movie would come on TV or whatever, like I said, Mom sat me down and was, oh, the Pink Panther movie's on. Yeah, for 3 minutes I got to see the Pink Panther. And all he did was sit there and smoke. And the rest of the movie is just a bunch of slapstick humor, which I wasn't expecting. Of course, I came around to it later as, a much older kid or teenager, however you want to look at it, understanding what was going on now. But at the time, as a kid, I'm just like, what the fuck is this? This ain't the Pink Panther. My mom lied to me.
Moms lie. That's
they do. You find out that they lie a lot.
Yeah. Then your parents
anyway,
tell you that acid is bad, and then you go, "Wow, they're liars."
Absolutely.
And then you become parents yourself, and that's when you become the liar. So
Absolutely. And we have Paulie with us. How you doing, Paulie?
hey,
happy Friday.
I like your shirt.
Thanks. What's happening, Chato and
not much.
Midnighters? Man, I got to see the first episode of Rings of Power last night.
Yeah, how was it?
Do tell us what you thought.
Yeah,
wasn't the Elf King great?
Actually, I had said, so what I did is I just filmed myself watching it, and then I chopped it up later on, like, you know, and I said that, I go, if this could be a standalone origin of Sauron, which is not exactly correct from the book, but at least those two guys were really good off each other.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind you guys messing with the lore, because those guys were the only ones that were actually acting with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else, and the writing was okay. Everything else was like platitudes as far as dialogue.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And I mean, like, she's just so unlikable. Everyone else is just so unlikable. And then of course you had people that have no business looking like elves. They're not elves, you know. And I don't, you know, it's like the United Benetton of elves. Like, I don't need to see a Latino elf. It just don't work. It don't work. It don't work, Lord. So yeah, it's pretty bad. And from what I hear, it gets worse in episode 2 and 3. So then you got Desert Gandalf and Frodo. Mm-hmm. Was like, how do you take one decent idea and you beat it to death over a season now of Gandalf trying to remember who he is. Yeah, man. I and what I can't believe is all the money spent. The money spent. It's disgusting.
On the cockroach tree.
The cockroach tree? Oh yeah. Yeah.
The exploding cockroach tree. How would you like to have that?
Yeah, man. Again, it's just you know, I could see in that part, anytime they're with Sauron and the lead orc guy.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Some cool gore, some cool bloody action. But then there's like Orc Dad. I'm like, what? You guys are not human. But you know, very much too little. I kept looking at my watch. I'm like,
why would orcs have families? They're born from like the roots of hell or whatever they are. Like,
they're created. Like, or they're what's
that was the Uruk-hai. Sorry, I'm mistaken.
Uruk-hai.
Yeah, that was the Uruk-hai. That was when he blended the two. But I would assume that the orcs come from the same place. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
But weren't they like corrupted?
Elves.
Corrupted elves.
I was about to say dwarves. Corrupt.
Yeah.
Well, basically, they were like SJW elves that was suffered through the mind virus. So you basically start with an elf, corrupted, and then you end up with an orc.
They're corrupted elves, yeah.
Yeah.
Which again, that character's very interesting, Andre. You know, the lead dude.
Yeah.
And he's a really good actor.
Yeah.
But besides that, all the men in the show, they're just like pretty looking weenie boys. It's just like, I'm like,
that's kind of like the big shame, though, when you have some really, really good talent or really interesting concepts or storylines that are being wasted on something that's absolutely mediocre. I mean, that's kind of like, for instance, my big takeaway with, for instance, the Total Recall remake. It's completely forgettable, but then it has like this really one cool segment about you have to travel taking an elevator through the Earth with the gravity shift and everything like that. And that would have been a really cool centerpiece in a completely original property. Instead, they wasted it on that darn remake.
Which one are we talking about?
Total Recall, the Total Recall remake. And it's like the same
right.
here. Here you have some really cool concepts. You have some really good actors. And these are things that in isolation ain't bad. Unfortunately, they are surrounded by all this other crap in this abomination of a series that shouldn't be existing. So you just
we had the same problem with Child's Play, and I said they were smart and actually did Megan, which took all the ideas that were new with the Child's Play remake and did its own thing. But yeah, and thank you, Lauren. I knew it was something like they were created because he says here Morgoth corrupted them when he's creating them. Yeah, I knew it, something like that. Yeah, thank you.
But again, that's another problem, is that unlike those that you talked about, this is a television show. This writer, there's two things about this writer, and help me out here, Chato, is she doesn't know how to write dialogue. It's all this bad reactionary modern language, be bold, don't be afraid, that type of shit. And then it's one voice through these different characters. So it's the same voice of the writer, but in the different characters. And it's not the different characters that are interesting. It seems the only two, again, going back to those two people, were doing anything interesting because they had actually some interesting interesting relationship. But everyone else, it was as if it was just that one, goofball writer speaking through all these characters.
Yeah, that's when you're writing, the basic rule is you're either advancing character, advancing plot, or both. So 3 things, that's your goal. Ideally, you want to do all 3. If you're doing a comedy, they're also delivering a joke, right? And yeah, the show does a very bad job with creating dialogue that is unique to the individual characters, so they're not interchangeable. I will say the Elf Lord, his dialogue was so bad that
the High King?
It was unique because he sounded like someone's mother. Give me those 3 rings. Give me the 3 rings right now. Give it. Who was that guy you were with? Tell me who that guy you were with last night at the bar. Come on, tell me who it was. Okay, it was Sauron. What? I told you never to go with that Sauron guy again. He's a bad news. Didn't I tell you? That Sauron guy. I don't like him.
But again, and then he blames like the entire destruction of Middle Earth on Galadriel for
correct.
you brought Sauron here, idiot king. And he's a fine actor, but the language and what he has to say is like, how is this guy a king? King of what?
And they've made the elf kingdom so tiny. It doesn't feel like this vast group of elves.
Well, again, you have a lot. There was a lot of elf extras that had no business being elves. It's like, hey, you know what? Let's go to the town of Bree. Let's pick up all the people from Bree. You guys are now elves. Oh, is any black or brown people here? Oh, even better. Come on, throw those ears on. I'm gonna feature you. And I'm like, these are ugliest elves, and it has nothing to do with their color, but it's just like elves are supposed to be like tall and angelic and all this stuff.
And in the books they have power, and they're mythical. Here I'm bringing the word mythical back again.
And they're actually
not mythical elves.
They're actually intelligent. It's not Galadriel. That is not Galadriel. This Galadriel is a human child.
Yeah.
Right? Which Galadriel's neither nor.
No.
And I guess supposedly at the end of this episode, she's gonna she changed, right? Because she put that ring on. Yeah, man.
Well, she has to find. So she did find Doogie Elvron,
who's bless him. He's acting his butt off.
I know
that character, that actor.
He's a pussy in it. Like he's just like, I don't like him. I mean, I don't blame the actor. It's more a question of the casting of that. He's not. he's not elf-like, you know, at least in the way that Peter Jackson has kind of tainted our minds to view them. But I think he got it right in the movie.
Well,
yeah.
Full spoiler too, guys. Is that okay if we're doing full spoilers?
Oh, go for it. Absolutely.
Right.
I mean, I respect not spoiling the audience when it's something good and we have an experience. I want the audience to enjoy. Like, for instance, we took great lengths not to spoil Deadpool and Wolverine. We also didn't spoil anything in Alien Romulus. Well, I didn't like it. I know many will like it, but I also know ain't nobody out there who is going to enjoy this, not thoroughly. If they did, they are unlikely to be watching here. And if for some reason someone watching right now are worried about spoilers, this is your warning. So take it away, Paulie.
So I know we got some scholars in the chat, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm going off of my limited knowledge of the books and the films. Sauron had completely deceived everyone at that time and given them all as gifts rings.
Right.
3 of the elves, 9 to the men, and I believe 11 to the dwarves. I could be wrong on the numbers, right? So they really trashed that, completely trashed that, and I don't understand how they're gonna turn that around in this, because just because Sauron has named someone else, they've already spilled the beans that what's his name before Sauron? I forgot what his name was. That, you know, the character
Morgoth.
Morgoth was the iteration before, or his master before, or maybe a third. There's all these different iterations, but the recent guy, Halbrand.
Okay,
right, Halbrand. They've already spilled the beans. Halbrand Sauron. Right. Don't put those rings on. Whatever you do, don't put those rings on.
But that's not what the book is about. The book is that they did put the rings on.
The book is that Sauron gifted these rings to them. Oh, yeah.
And they didn't know there was a one ring to control them.
No. So I guess they'll get away with that. But here, it's like, you know, they accidentally put the rings on.
Which is dumb. And I actually thought of that too, Paulie. I went, okay, if you're going to start this, then every faction, it should start with every single group that were given rings, that they put them on, and havoc starts.
Yeah.
And none of them realize the effect of the rings, and none of them realize that Sauron is actually controlling them. That is actually the beginning of a very good story. You want to be in the middle of action. You don't want to be how do you say it? You don't want constant origin story.
So okay, so from what the book purists are saying, that they actually were created by Celeborn, right? And didn't
just the elves ones were.
The elves ones. Well, that's already okay. So that's not what they did in the movies, right? And that's not what they're doing here. So again, story-wise, is like, okay, so if Sauron's being deceptive, he's doing a shitty job. He did a shitty job. And I mean, or this, he just, hey, you know what? These elves are all idiots. I can do whatever. I'm literally gonna go on a horse by myself after I've been found out, and I'm gonna go back to Celeborn's castle. There's someone at the castle. Should I let him? Someone's at the gate. Should I let him in? They already let him in the gates. Homeboy's in. Could have wiped everyone out. But why did they let him in? You know, we saw none of this shit was making sense, man.
Yeah, impressive stuff. Really impressive how they were able to do that. So yeah,
man. And so yeah.
How many episodes are there this season? Because I haven't seen any yet. I will have to, of course, just to be able to discuss it. I'm so annoyed that they dropped 3 episodes in one go. Gentlemen, why did they drop 3 episodes in one go? please, Paulie, give us your insights. Why would they do this?
Oh God, to get some sort of ratings numbers, because if you dump it all at once, people will binge it, and then they can claim it's the number one. They already claimed it's number 2 already. If you go on the Prime, I went on Prime when I watched it last night. Number 2, I'm like, wow, that was quick.
That was bad. It should have been number 1.
Right? Like, and why would you even put that up there? Number 2.
What was number 1?
Oh, I don't know. It wasn't Rings. I just noticed before I clicked on the first episode, it like, I'll go back to my let me look at this interface. But that's my
yeah. I of course agree with that assessment. Paul, do you want to add to that? Well, Paulie is looking to see if it has gotten up to 1 yet, or if it's still getting its ass kicked by something else, despite it.
In every case so far in the land of streaming outside of Netflix, streamers that have historically only delivered a couple of maybe one episode a week have been doing multiple episodes, stunting, because I think they felt that there wasn't enough in the first episode to be able to hook the viewer. So they at least give you 2, hoping you're at least going to want to watch the rest of the series. Now, in almost every single case, it hasn't worked because those series have sucked, right? Just because you give us 3 episodes of a shitty series doesn't mean we're going to be more interested in it, right? So that's my only thought, is that Amazon Prime has decided that these shows really don't hold up as one episode, and maybe they'll sucker us in if we watch all 3, which will be, then suddenly we'll go, oh my God, this is brilliant.
Yeah. Tom, do you agree with the argumentation of theirs? Do you think that if you were to see 1 episode and you're a little bit on the fence, maybe watching 2 more can win you over?
Do I get paid?
Well, technically you do.
Well, technically you should have to get paid, which is why I'm not telling you to watch them, because I'd rather you spend your time making videos.
If you pay me enough, I'll say anything you want.
Well, I don't have to, because Amazon already has so many critics on the take as it is, because this thing is doing pretty well on Rotten Tomatoes. So obviously someone is getting paid for watching this.
I wouldn't subject my cat to this show. And his name is Asshole.
He would probably shove his asshole into it and move on, I would imagine, as well. But yeah.
Or shove it in my face for showing it.
So I'm trying to remember the first series. Andre, you saw all the first, right?
I did. We spoke. We suffered jointly every single week with the filthy hobbitses and the sex scene that was between the dicks and everything,
and the amazing flume ride through the center of the earth.
Yeah, exactly. And let's not forget that there's a tempest within Galadriel.
There is, and the Cheetos explosion that covered the town in Cheetos dust. So the rings of power are about the rings of power, but ironically the show has never been about the rings of power, which has been
funny how that works.
Weird.
That's pretty deep.
And I don't, is it because they didn't feel there was enough story to be able to stretch it out across the number of years that they had to, make it? I mean, because 20 rings were made. One was made by Sauron, the one that controls them all. In the first series, the Elven rings were assisted by, was made by Celeborn with the knowledge of Sauron. So we don't know whether they were actually tainted in the show. And I'm trying to remember the books. Only read them 5 times. But we do know that he had more influence of the 9 rings for mortal man and the 7 rings for the dwarves. So in theory, he had way more control over those, but we haven't seen those made, and we haven't seen those being distributed to those two groups. We've spent an entire year, an entire season, just making the ones for the elves, which is what I just don't get. Make all the fucking rings, send them out, and let's see what happens to those.
We know what happens. That's the thing.
Corrupted. What?
This is based off the appendices, right? We know what happens, and so they're trying to make 4 or 5 seasons out of, maybe a 1 hour special.
Yeah, and that's the creative choice that they have made. That okay, here we have this little thing that you're right, should have been 1 hour special, and we're just going to stretch it out. And this is kind of like the same thing that was done with the Hobbit before, right? I still say that the best adaptation of the Hobbit is the animated Rankin and Bass cartoon from the 70s.
Right,
it is like 75 minutes long. Whereas for the Hobbit trilogy, this is where Peter Jackson made a mistake. They dragged that thing out for like 9 hours of playing time. It's ridiculous.
That was crash. That was here. Great. That was the ultimate cash grab.
Yeah.
But because I know a lot of people complained about changes that were made in the Lord of the Rings movies. However, I'm curious because we have a lot of OG Lord of the Rings fans in the chat. Did you guys agree that there were changes, but were you able to look past them because they were good films, which is what you can't say about the Hobbit films or what we've been getting now? So I was just wondering that too.
Well, I mean, so here's my response to the Hobbit thing is that if someone can edit that down into 1 2 hour film, there's enough good stuff in there to make a good film. And
I'm sure they have
nothing that you can edit down in Rings of Power to turn it into anything. I think that's a very important distinction to make.
Yeah. I mean, there's too little of something that I kind of like in this one episode, which is again those two characters. Like, dude, give me those guys. I'd love a 2 hour movie just with those dudes. It was, that was a good beginning as far as the Simon Pegg. Did you catch that? The guy looked like Simon Pegg?
No. The original Sauron.
Yeah, at the beginning he looked like a de-aged Simon Pegg. It was pretty.
That was a weird. That was a weird one. That was weird.
I liked it though, because it for me, I didn't know what was gonna happen. It was like what a good hook, and then I don't know. I thought that it's not. Listen, I thought that was interesting. I don't know what to tell you. Everything else was crap.
The blood soaking into the little creek and slowly feeding off of rats and things, turning into a corporeal Sauron.
So they ripped off Hellraiser, is what you're saying?
Yeah,
Hellraiser, Venom. But I was saying when I was watching it, it's like, yeah, that's kind of silly, but I love the idea of evil never dying, never giving up. It was really creepy. Especially when it attacked that.
I like that part too.
Yeah, I like when it attacked that old lady in the
old lady
in the wagon.
I didn't eat the horse though, because that was
the horse took off, dog.
they would never have
like a rat's okay. But to me, that was like a little mystery, something going, something creepy and dark going on. But then they cut to old rest in biatch face, chasing Elrond. I'm like, oh.
The only thing that I had a problem with the younger Sauron facing the minions led by the dark elf was it was weirdly human that while he showed power of being able to fling orcs about at will, I didn't understand where he got his power from. I didn't get what he was doing, and he was being really nasty to them all. And I'm going, if you're trying to rule the earth, why not accept this gift and take these minions as your own. Why was he being such a bitch about it? Like, I just didn't get that part.
Well, the writers and the creators don't. Because you have great interesting setups, but they don't know. They clearly they didn't know. They didn't know. What to
I
do
agree
with
with you. That to me was okay. So the evil dark elf is giving you his minions. Why not enjoy the moment? Why are you being so mean to them? Like, I didn't get that. Didn't get the reason for that. So but the Uzi part and the resurrection part, I actually didn't mind at all. I thought, okay.
Right. And then there's the old man he meets that has the pendant. I'm like, okay, this is cool. I like that. But then again, you know, the stakes, there was no stakes when they were being killed, because you didn't have an endearing moment with the old man. It was just, it's like, guys, you guys don't even know. Clearly you don't know how to write anything as far as, for the audience, as far as these characters.
And if you're going to make him super evil, have him consume the old man. Like, make it horrific.
That would have been cool. But again, you know, you got all this other, DEI stuff that you have to cover, with these terrible characters. They're just terrible. And I don't mean like terrible, like, they're not nice people, some of them, but they're just terribly written and dumb.
Yeah, dumb is indeed the word for this, and I think that about sums it up for now. So let us move on here. I know that Paul has to go, and there's also another question for you here. Hypergiver says for $5, Paul, ever wonder why Mac users don't get viruses like everyone? It's because Mac users are already suffering enough.
Well, you tell the programmers in our shop that are all running Macs and putting Windows onto VM or Linux onto VM, just so we can have a more secure world. So go take your viruses, Mr. Hypergiver, your Windows viruses. And the fact that Windows is now wanting to become a service. So you don't even going to be downloading Windows. You're going to be operating it from the cloud.
Well, what do you mean wanting to? Isn't it already? Because I unfortunately have a subscription. That's kind of like what I hate here. Like, don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm on PC, but that's not because I have any kind of loyalty to Bill Gates or something.
Oh, you want to play
more
games?
a matter of That's
yeah,
a matter of convenience, but I know.
Service.
Yeah.
So,
but anyway, even if you are a Mac user, Accident Seller points out, still love you, Paul. So it's all good.
Okay.
You're forgiven. And we are grateful for you taking one for the team and being on Macs and just avoiding all of the stuff, the joys that you can have in a PC, all of the virus and stuff. Of course, unless you do a virtual console, then you can have all the PC fun anyway. So
that's right.
There's that.
Well, when you're a programmer, you really should be running your OS in a hypervisor state, because if for whatever reason the OS gets attacked by a virus, you can just throw it in the trash and then, create a new, open up a new ISO, and then you've got your fresh OS right there, and it's there in minutes.
Yeah.
Never run your OS directly on metal.
Indeed. And Joe's atmosphere says Blake Edwards did some of his best work after Peter Sellers. Victoria, Blind Date, and SOB. Hail all.
Okay. Hail. That's what I was asking. What did he do after?
Right.
Yeah, this is true. Those were good, but he probably should have left the Peter Sellers legacy alone, because he couldn't do anything that needed to have Peter Sellers without Peter Sellers. Let's put it that way.
And Victoria really was an amazing. I mean, he really addressed a lot of LGBT concerns in that movie, way ahead of time.
Well, and because the situation that was created in that film lended itself to that. It's I haven't watched that in years. I need to see it again.
Yeah, James Garner actually, when Julie Andrews confesses, maybe I'm a man, and James Garner goes, I don't care.
Yeah, I was very progressive.
Okay, that was a
and
progressive.
before you go, you'll get a kick out of this. 6 is now thinking about orcs having sex. So are all of you. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah.
So,
If you want to envision it, just look at any modern pride parade.
My God.
and the people on those floats, and you're going to get the picture of orcs having sex.
And demonetized if we weren't already.
If you already weren't, correct.
Yeah, if we weren't already.
And then now he's gonna leave. Watch.
Now I'm running away.
Bye.
Well, anyway,
Bye.
thanks for joining us today. Thanks for the Rings of Power review, for seeing it, so I didn't have to yet. Although I just have 3 episodes to get caught up with. It's unbelievable. Paul, what do you have coming for people to check out? Both the channels are, of course,
I'm taking the weekend off, and I've got lots of appalling news, of course, but I'm just keeping it in my back pocket for now. I want to.
So basically, everyone should check out Midnight's Edge this weekend.
Yes.
Because Tom will be celebrating Labor Day weekend by pumping out videos, and so will I. So yeah, then you know where to be this weekend when you're not out parading and celebrating Stalin Day. So yeah.
Yep. Go Stalin. Yeah.
So
I don't understand why Hitler is the epitome of evil when Stalin is several orders of magnitude worse.
Maybe but the powers that be agree with him. That's the difference.
Don't start, Polly. See, you were gonna leave, and then you open up a can of worms. Like
yeah. Anyways, just tell that to the 20 million dead. Take that, Hitler.
Anyway, thanks for joining us. Thanks for giving us trouble. We have the door.
Take that, Hitler.
We need to do our Brazilian movie night.
Yeah, and we're gonna be having a Paul over with the members on the channel soon. There's a Brazilian movie night, and then a new Brazilian TV show on Max called City of God, the battle.
Oh, I heard about that. Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So,
have fun, everyone. Have a great long weekend. Bye.
Take care. And with that, let's return to these super chats here. First, Jesus Davila gifted a membership. Thank you so much for that, Jesus. And Polly, you were saying.
I was saying really quick. So it's 8 episodes of season 2. You want to know how many episodes for season 2 of Rings of Power? So there's 8 on the books. 3 have been dumped, and it's now number 1 on Prime.
Number 2. I was surprised it wasn't already.
Right.
Which is the current number 2, which was number 1?
The Boys, which makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. So basically, probably still, that is the legit number 1, but with some fortification, it's Rings of Power. I do not believe it's really number 1. I mean, it's not like their internal rankings have been approved by Ernst & Young or something like that. And then Bob Liger has an urgent question, saying for $5, gentlemen, I have an urgent question. If Leslie Square Headland and Roundhead Johnson were to breed, would their offspring have the perfect head shape? I don't think that would happen, because that would go against their preferences. But if it were, you never know how the genetic lottery is going to turn out. So that would be a very risky gamble. It's not always that 2 negatives cancel each other out. Don't always work that way.
Yeah, we can go on.
Yeah, let's not even go there any further. And ActionCom says for $5, I'll take it easy on you, Tom. In regards to Disney, imagine an imaginary menagerie manager managing an imaginary menagerie.
Nice.
I'll have to save this one for Tom. He had to mind his cat or something like that.
That's a good one, though. I like that.
And Accident Salad says for 20 Norwegian krona. Paulie watching Rings of Power. I'm turning. Oh, well, you have to say this. I'm not going to.
Paulie watching Rings of Power. I'm turning fucking loco, chico. Yeah. Accident Caller. It's a pretty funny video, and I put it up this morning. Like I said, what I did do, Andre, is I rewatched season 1 finale, and I was like, oh, I stopped watching. I remembered. So I didn't really ever see season 1 finale to get ready for the new season. And boy, was I in a good mood.
You missed out?
I missed out. What was I doing the last 2 years? Yeah, it was a thing of turning local and just yawning at the same time. So there you go, accent caller.
And Justice for Geo the Rock wonders for 14 South African rounds. What do you all think of the Lord of the Rings anime? And as for me, I quite like ranking in Bass Hobbit. I kind of like consider that to be like the official one. And then you have the Lord of the Rings anime by Ralph Bakshi. And I haven't seen it in modern times. I saw it when I was a kid. And you can practically say that I haven't seen it then, because as a kid, I did not like the rotoscoping and how they went so far that you had very obvious pictures of humans just kind of like animated over in a super duper animated way that distracted me from the proper animated stuff. So I did not like it when I was a kid, but I haven't rewatched that thing in, I don't know, 35 years or something. So I'd have to rewatch it now to give like a renewed assessment. Paul, have you seen it? Or Paul Lee, since Paul just left, have you seen it in modern history or in modern times?
I haven't. So I all I can tell you is it was good childhood memories. I thought it was really cool when I was a kid. You know, but that and the Lord of the Rings and heavy metal, right? Because it was a Bakshi, the same.
Yeah, that's no. Heavy metal is not Bakshi. Heavy metal is several different creators, but it's not Bakshi. Bakshi did loads of awesome stuff, but he didn't.
No, he did.
Fire and Ice.
Yeah, he did Fire and Ice. He did Fritz the Cat. He did.
Right. Okay. Did he do American Pop?
Yes.
Yes.
I loved American Pop. But as far as those ones earlier,
I love Bakshi, just not the.
It's not the same guy. Okay. Yeah. Rankin Bass. Oh, okay. Then Bakshi, and then there. Okay. Thank you, Jill. See, Jill knows. Very cool.
The greatest.
Bass also did The Return of the King to conclude the tale. So you have like a trilogy in animation as well. From two different.
Yeah, heavy metal was awesome. Yeah,
heavy metal is amazing. I really enjoyed Heavy Metal 2000 as well, with Julie Strain and Billy Idol.
I never saw that.
Now it's super cool. I'll hook you up with it if you want.
So much to watch. Yeah,
so much to watch, so little time, especially if you have content to create as well. But yeah. Antonil89 says for $5, well, if we just assume they're drunk, dumb, egotistic ass monkeys, these decisions make more sense. Yes, this is true. This is true. And keep that in mind for when I do my video on Dustborn, which is coming. Because spoiler, that's how that game makes sense. And Hyperguyver 2 also says for $5, Celeborn did not make the rings, that was Celebrimbor, the descendant of Fëanor. The elven rings weren't affected by Sauron's influence.
There you go. Yeah, is it Celebrimbor or Celebrimbor with a hard K or like a celery? Can someone in the chat help me out with that?
I think it's with the K sound, but yeah.
Right, because in the show they're saying it with the K, but is that correct? Because everything is incorrect in these shows. But yeah, they weren't even affected by Sauron's influence. I mean.
And I have to say, I really hate the letter C, because for that reason, you never know if it's S or K.
So it is with a K. Okay.
Yeah. So then you should just write it with a K, then remove all doubt. And then Accident Salad says for 20 Norwegian krona. But Andre, NRK loved Rings of Power seasons 1 and 2. NRK, that's the Norwegian BBC. That's the Norwegian Broadcast Corporation. And that they loved Rings of Power, that, of course, is another reason not to watch it. You know why? Because they're commies. And also on that note, as for to answer Paul's question from earlier about, like, why doesn't Stalin get the same level of blame? Well, because the Big H lost the war. Next question. Indeed. Next question, or rather next is Richard, the dungeon crawler, who's been a member for 4 months, and we are glad to have you. Then T. Neil also says to you, Paulie, the writers are illiterate. This isn't so much writing as it is making a big mess with a pen. Or for a computer, but either way, yeah, you're not wrong. This is a sad state, but that's how it is. Max Relax has also been a member for 35 months, and STR Red Wolf wonders, orcs have sex? Oh, you have no idea.
What's wrong with people?
Well, I guess that as long as the orcs find each other attractive, then hey, as long as they don't have to bother anyone else, then it's all good, I guess.
All right, let's get that hashtag going. Orcs lives matter.
Yeah, be careful with what you wish for. I'm sure that's going to trend by the end here. And with that, we are actually fully caught up. So, Paulie, where can people find you and what do you have planned?
I just want to say real quick, imagine an imaginary motherfucker. I knew I had
Say
it.
It slow. Say it slow, dude.
Imagine an imaginary menagerie manager managing an imaginary menagerie. Yes.
Nice.
And I nailed it first time. Haha.
You did.
He
Absolutely.
He did.
I heard you. I'm actually sick in the background here. I'm not feeling too.
Yeah, sorry, not feeling it. That reminds me of those theater exercises we'd have to do, and so we'd do all those tongue twisters, and then if you really wanted to get your diction down, they give you a cork, the corks, then you put in your mouth, and you literally have to enunciate with that. I slit a sheet, I slit, and on the slitted sheet I sit. I slit a sheet of sheet.
Why did you shit on a slitted seat?
But on the slitted sheet, I sit.
Why do you shit on the sheet?
Unique New York.
And that's how one gets better. So Tom can try that when he feels a little bit better again. Meanwhile, Six has some advice for everyone this weekend. Sometimes you leave the bar with an elf and wake up with an orc. So yeah, indeed. I'm sure quite a few people will be able to relate to that.
And Justice for Geo the Rock is saying something about his last super chat was on the upcoming film. I don't know if I was here.
I have to go back and check.
Oh, he's talking about the War of Rohirrim.
All right.
Oh, he was asking about what we thought about the Lord of the Rings anime, and then we went back to the 70s. I got you.
All right. Oh,
Whoa.
yeah. You have to specify that. Yeah. I think it looks fine. I hope it'll be cool for the audience. You just have to remember that one, it's a pure rights retainer that they have made for the least amount of money possible, and it was made during the Anne Sarnoff regime, and she probably mandated, I don't care, here's some money, put some chicks in it and make them gay. So that would have been a mandate there, and then it will have grown in importance right now, because now you have Amazon and the Rings of Power making the Lord of the Rings a hotter commodity, which Warner just so happens to have. So you just have to be a little bit forgiving of the Rings of the War of the Rohirrim, and just take it for the rights retainer that it is all I have to say about it. And I'm not intrigued by it, but I was never that much into Lord of the Rings in the first place.
It looks fine. Story's crap.
Pretty much. Tom, any thoughts on this before we send people over to Paulie?
No, I'm trying not to throw up, so I'd rather not think about it anymore.
Okay, that's cool. Let's do that then. Paulie, what do you have going on?
Yeah, I'm gonna go live right now, so come on by.
I'm gonna set up the redirect right now.
Thank you. It's our fourth live of Voto 2024. So I'm going to, with you guys, react to VP Harris's first interview, snippets of it, and a couple other political notes. Have some fun, get some thoughts out there, and we're trying to do this political show every Friday. Just being honest about it, having a couple laughs, but yeah. So I'm gonna go do that right now.
Yeah, go do that. And I'm just gonna come on then. There we go. And there,
Thanks.
the redirect is set up. So now everyone go and hang out with Paulie for that. And you don't have to even do anything, just stay exactly where you are. Check back over the course of the weekend. We have several videos we are working on. Among them, as I said, we have a video on Dustborn. A game that of course is partially funded by the Norwegian state. So I've been flooded by questions all week. What do I think? How could this happen? Well, I didn't want to answer before I actually reach out to the awarding body and get their take on things, which I have done, and that is going to be in the video, straight from the Norwegian Film Institute themselves. I have their version of events. So stay tuned for that. That will be coming this weekend. And with that, it is time for some koalas in the rain.
Koalas in the rain, koalas in the rain, no fucks given. Koalas in the rain.